Hey guys, tonight we're rewinding time so far back that calendars don't even exist yet. You're sitting by a flickering campfire somewhere on the African savanna, maybe 200,000 years before anyone thinks to invent history itself. The air smells like damp earth and roasted roots. Around you, a few shadowy figures huddle close, wrapped in animal hides, muttering in the first half-formed languages humanity ever spoke. This is the dawn of civilization, before cities, before kings, before someone decided to turn their neighbor's cave into an Airbnb. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And drop your location and the time down in the comments. It's always fun seeing where and when you're tuning in from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're barefoot in the red dust of prehistory. The sun's been cruel today, but the evening cool feels kind. You pick up a stick from the fire and wave it, watching sparks leap like tiny stars. It's mesmerizing and revolutionary. Fire, this living light, is the first thing humans truly master. It warms, it protects, it cooks, and it hypnotizes you into daydreaming. You don't know it yet, but this glowing ember is the first tool that'll separate you from the animals. Well, that and your rapidly improving brain. Which, fun fact, is about to triple in size over the next few 100,000 years. With fire comes cooking, and with cooking comes leisure time. For the first time in existence, you're not spending every waking second chewing raw roots or running from predators. You start staring at clouds and imagining shapes. Maybe a story forms in your mind, of a giant animal in the sky, or a spirit hiding in the storm. Those idle stories, told in hushed whispers around the fire, will eventually grow into myth, religion, and Netflix plotlines. You wander across continents. Humans fan out from Africa, footprints pressed into the mud of time. You follow rivers and coastlines, each small band carrying fire, language, and the world's most questionable haircuts. You learn to make tools, flint blades sharp enough to shave a mammoth, though the mammoth would definitely object. Historians still argue whether these migrations were driven more by climate, curiosity, or just the eternal human need to see what's over the next hill. Then there's cooperation. You join a tribe, a loosely organized group of 30 or so people who share food, stories, and responsibility for not getting eaten. You start to divide labor. Some hunt, some gather. And others supervise from a shady spot, because managerial instincts were apparently baked into us early. It's not civilization yet, but it's the rehearsal. You're learning how to live together, which is the hardest thing humanity ever does. There's danger too. A storm flashes across the horizon. You shelter in a cave, where the walls flicker with shadows. Someone grabs a lump of red ochre and starts drawing, a herd of bison, a line of stick figures, maybe a handprint. Art is born, not for money, but because the human mind can't help but leave a mark. Thousands of years later, those cave paintings will whisper, "We were here," and then, dogs. You befriend a wolf pup that doesn't run away. You feed it scraps, it guards your camp. Slowly, through generations, wolves turn into dogs, and humanity gains its first and most loyal ally. This friendship between species reshapes survival itself. Archaeologists call it domestication. You might call it the first emotional support animal. The world around you changes. Ice ages come and go, carving valleys and trapping mammoths in frozen tombs. You follow the herds, cross narrow land bridges, and reach new lands. Your brain grows more complex, your speech more refined. You start to remember the past, plan the future, and argue about both. You notice beauty now, the curve of an antler, the glimmer of obsidian. You make necklaces from shells, tattoos from ash, and drums from stretched hide. Music echoes in the dark, steady beats mimicking the heart. Maybe rhythm was your species' first form of group therapy, but progress always comes with a price. With greater minds come greater anxieties. You begin to worry about death, about storms, about what happens when the fire goes out. To calm the unknown, you invent spirits, forces in the trees, the wind, the stars. Historians still argue whether early religion was born from fear or gratitude, but either way, it gave life meaning. Your days stretch into millennia. The world warms again. And glaciers retreat. Animals you once hunted vanish, forests spread, and grasslands bloom. You discover new foods, berries, grains, roots, and, in a few thousand years, you'll realize you can actually grow them instead of chasing them. But that's another story for another section. For now, you sit by your fire, eyes reflecting orange light, unaware that you've just invented everything: community, imagination, and curiosity. You don't have cities, laws, or Wi-Fi yet. But you have stories. And stories are what will carry humanity forward, from these wild plains into the slow, stubborn march of civilization. You wake to the sound of birdsong and the smell of damp soil. The Ice Age has loosened its grip, and the world feels softer, warmer, greener, almost inviting. The rivers you once followed for drinking water now glitter beside fertile valleys. You stretch, scratch at a bug bite, and realize something monumental: food grows here. You don't have to chase it anymore. You pick up a seed, a small, unassuming miracle, and drop it into the dirt. It feels pointless at first, but months later, when you find stalks of grain where the seed once fell, your mind lights up like a campfire spark. Farming has arrived, though you don't know that word yet. You just know this: staying put is suddenly worth it. Communities form around these fertile spots. You help build small huts from mud and reeds, right beside your new garden. You plant wheat, barley, and lentils, nature's early attempt at a balanced diet. The first farming villages appear in places that will one day be called the Fertile Crescent, in modern-day Iraq and Syria. Historians still argue whether this shift to agriculture was humanity's best idea or its original mistake. On one hand, stability, food surplus, and community. On the other, back pain, plagues, and neighbors who borrow your sickle and never return it. Still, life changes fast. Hunting fades into a side hobby, replaced by early versions of morning routines: watering crops, feeding goats, and staring judgmentally at the sky, hoping for rain. You invent pottery to store your grain, and when you accidentally leave water in a clay pot too long, something magical, and probably disgusting, happens: fermentation. The first beer bubbles up, and just like that, you've invented agriculture's most persuasive recruitment tool: your village grows. A dozen huts become 50, then 100. You can't possibly know everyone anymore, and that means something radical must evolve: trust systems. Language becomes more complex, stories become social glue, and someone, somewhere, decides they're in charge of dividing resources. Power is born and immediately questioned: fences go up. Property is invented. You can almost feel civilization sharpening its teeth. For the first time, there's mine and yours. You and your neighbors begin to bicker over territory, irrigation, or whose sheep wandered where. Conflict sprouts as easily as the crops. Humans, it turns out, are better at growing grudges than wheat, but it's not all drama. With stability comes creativity. You carve idols, small clay figures representing fertility, weather, or luck. Some people decorate their homes with them. Others whisper prayers. Slowly, ritual evolves into religion. A communal belief forms: if you sow right, pray right, and don't anger the sky, the harvest will come. The world starts feeling organized, predictable, even if it's an illusion. Trade blooms too. You have extra grain, your neighbor has obsidian, someone else nearby crafts baskets. A system of exchange emerges long before coins or credit cards. Across the ancient Near East, obsidian blades travel hundreds of miles, proof that humans were networking long before LinkedIn, with more people come new sounds, the chatter of children, the clatter of pots, the barking of domesticated dogs, the hum of bees around the first beehives. Music becomes part of daily life. You tap on hollow logs, blow into reeds, and sing to make the labor feel lighter. Historians still argue whether music evolved for ritual, romance, or sheer boredom relief. Whatever the reason, your village's evenings now have a rhythm. Then come the cats. Grain attracts mice, mice attract cats, and cats, well, they decide you're tolerable enough to live with. You think you've domesticated them, but deep down, you know who's really in charge. The first real villages appear, places like Jericho and Catalhoyuk. They're dense, smoky, and alive with human noise. You can smell cooking fires, hear goats bleating, and see neighbors gossiping from rooftop to rooftop. Houses are stacked like honeycombs, built so close together you can walk across town without ever touching the ground. There are no streets, just pathways through the maze of mud brick homes. Inside, the walls are painted with scenes of hunting and harvest. Skulls are buried beneath floors, hinting at early ancestor worship, or maybe just a lack of designated cemeteries. Each generation adds layers, literally building upon the bones of the past, but comfort comes with new burdens. Disease spreads easily in close quarters. Poor sanitation and shared wells mean sickness can wipe out families. Farming diets, heavy in grains and low in variety, lead to stunted growth and dental nightmares. Yet, despite it all, populations explode. The rhythm of human life has shifted from migration to permanence, and permanence changes how you think. You start planning years ahead, seasons, cycles, legacies. You begin to care about inheritance. You start naming your children not after the hunt, but after the land. Property, lineage, and reputation take root deeper than any crop. One evening, you stand on a hillside overlooking your village. Smoke curls lazily from chimneys, goats bleat below. And the setting sun paints everything gold. You realize you're watching the world's first neighborhood barbecue, complete with petty gossip, territorial disputes, and someone overcooking the meat. Civilization, in all its messy glory, has begun. You wake to the steady splash of water and the faint scent of river mud. The world has shifted again, larger villages now cluster near great, glimmering arteries of life. You're in Mesopotamia, between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, where humanity learns its next big trick, irrigation. The land is flat, the soil rich, and the sun merciless. Without ditches and canals, nothing grows. With them, you can feed thousands. So, naturally, someone has to manage it all. Congratulations, you've just invented bureaucracy. Every morning, you and your neighbors trudge through fields, pulling up weeds and checking water channels. A few people start keeping tally marks on clay tablets, grain owed. Water distributed, labor completed. It doesn't take long for tally marks to evolve into something grander, writing. At first, it's not poetry or prophecy, it's paperwork. The first recorded words in human history aren't epic tales, but receipts. Historians still argue whether this proves civilization is built on art or accounting, but deep down, you know it's the latter. You step into Uruk, one of the first true cities. It hums with energy, markets bustling with traders, donkeys braying, bronze tools clinking. The smell of baked bread mingles with that of livestock and sweat. The air is thick with progress and pride. Towering above it all is a ziggurat, a massive step temple reaching for the sky. Where priests climb to talk to the gods about weather forecasts and crop yields, you can't help but notice something odd about this new world, hierarchy. In the beginning, everyone was equal around the fire. Now, there are rulers, priests, scribes, artisans, and laborers. You might still plow fields, but now someone else decides whose field it is. The king claims divine right, priests claim divine messages, and you claim a sore back, yet, there's comfort in structure. The gods have names now, Anu, Enlil, Inanna, and their moods mirror your daily struggles. Floods. The gods are angry. Good harvest. They're pleased. You bring offerings, grain, goats, beer, hoping for cosmic approval. And somewhere between ritual and fear, religion becomes policy. Nearby, Egypt rises along the Nile. You travel there, following the river as it snakes through golden sands. The Nile floods predictably each year, leaving behind black, fertile silt, Kemet, the Black Land. People gather along its banks, build villages, and thank the gods with songs that sound like hymns and irrigation schedules rolled into one. You watch the first pharaohs rise, claiming to be living gods, mediators between heaven and earth. You can't deny, they have style. Their crowns glint. Their palaces gleam, and their tombs are already being planned with suspicious enthusiasm. The Egyptians are master organizers. Every brick, every loaf of bread, every moment of labor is logged, measured, and taxed. Somewhere, a scribe sighs over a broken reed pen, muttering that he didn't go to writing school for this. But writing thrives. Hieroglyphs, those tiny, elegant symbols, cover temple walls, turning life into art and bureaucracy into legacy. Across the rivers, in Mesopotamia, cuneiform tablets multiply. You hold one in your hands, it's heavy, etched with wedge-shaped symbols. Maybe it's a record of a grain sale, or maybe the first complaint letter in history, Dear Merchant. These dates are not as advertised. Humans have discovered the joy of documentation, and the curse of red tape. Trade expands across regions. Boats glide down rivers laden with goods, lapis lazuli from Afghanistan, cedar from Lebanon, copper from Anatolia. You can almost feel the pulse of early globalization. And with trade comes gossip, tales of faraway lands, strange customs, and foreign gods. You realize that humans are addicted not just to survival, but to stories about survival. One day, you find yourself standing in a bustling market square. Merchants shout, oxen groan under cargo, and somewhere, a child runs laughing through a cloud of dust. The smell of dates, beer, and freshly tanned leather fills the air. Civilization has flavor now, rich, intoxicating, and just a bit sweaty. You pass a temple workshop where artisans carve statues of deities. One sculptor, covered in clay dust, smiles proudly at his work, a goddess with wide eyes and an enigmatic grin. You sense her watching you, as if amused by humanity's newfound obsession with order, and then, of course, there are laws. You stumble upon Hammurabi's code, chiseled into stone centuries later, rules for everything from theft to gossip. An eye for an eye, it says. Justice is now quantified, standardized, and terrifyingly literal. Historians still debate whether it was a step toward fairness or just a really intense neighborhood watch. Somewhere between tablets and temples, you start noticing a new kind of person, the scholar. They sit under palm trees, counting stars, measuring time, dreaming of patterns. Astronomy, math, and writing fuse into the first sciences. You look up at the constellations they chart, realizing that curiosity has found a permanent home, but progress never rests. Fields expand, cities sprawl, rivers shift. Salts creep into the soil, crops wither, and kings start bickering over dwindling water. It turns out irrigation has side effects, ecological burnout and border wars. The very systems that made civilization possible are already threatening it. Still, you stand by the river at sunset, watching light ripple on the water's surface. Children splash, fishermen cast nets, priests chant from temple stairs. The world feels vast and alive. From the muddy banks of the Tigris to the golden sands of the Nile, humanity has built something astonishing, a network of cities, languages, and gods that hums with shared ambition. You take one last look at the reflection in the river. It's not just you staring back anymore. It's us, all of humanity, beginning to recognize itself in the current of time. The sun hangs low over the Nile, spilling gold across the desert sands. You squint against the glare, watching hundreds of workers drag massive limestone blocks up a ramp toward what will one day become the Great Pyramid of Giza. Sweat glistens on their backs, their chants rise in rhythm, and the air trembles with the clang of copper tools against stone. You wipe your brow and wonder why, exactly, every great civilization seems obsessed with building pointy tombs. You've entered the age of god-kings. Pharaohs, emperors, and divine rulers stride across the world, draped in gold and certainty. They don't just govern, they embody the cosmos. The Egyptians say their pharaoh is Horus on earth, the living link between heaven and humanity. Mesopotamian kings call themselves shepherds of the people, chosen by the gods to keep chaos at bay. You realize, with a sleepy smile, that politics has always been part performance art. Here, death isn't an end, it's a career move. You step inside a tomb as artists paint its walls in the glow of flickering oil lamps. Blue and red pigments swirl into scenes of eternal harvests, sunlit boats, and the weighing of souls. Canopic jars line the floor like ghostly sentinels, each carefully labeled for vital organs. Someone whispers that crocodile dung makes good sunscreen. You quietly decide to stay pale. Historians still argue whether pyramid building was a national labor project or the world's longest team-building exercise. Either way, it unites thousands. Farmers, freed from their fields during flood season, haul stones and share bread and beer under the sun. You hear laughter, songs, and the clatter of wooden sledges. Civilization, even at its most exhausting, hums with communal rhythm. Beyond Egypt, the Bronze Age world glitters with ambition. Across the eastern Mediterranean, kingdoms rise like constellations: Mycenae, Hatti, Babylon. Trade routes stitch them together with threads of tin, copper, and rumor. Ships creak across the Aegean, carrying olive oil, wine, and gossip about kings and wars. You can almost smell the salt in the air, hear the flutter of sails, feel the tug of empire pulling in all directions. In Mesopotamia, ziggurats pierce the sky while scribes etch cuneiform into endless clay. In the Indus Valley, cities like Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro thrive with straight streets, sewage systems, and meticulously planned grids. It's so well organized that modern urban planners would blush. Yet no one knows their rulers' names. Their language, still undeciphered, hums like a mystery buried beneath millennia. One evening, you sit beside the Indus River, watching fireflies drift over the water. Somewhere behind you, a craftsman carves a seal, a square stamp marked with an animal and strange symbols. Maybe it's a signature, maybe a prayer, maybe an ancient logo. You realize branding predates Instagram by a few thousand years. Meanwhile, in Crete, the Minoans are dancing. Literally. In bright, airy palaces filled with frescoes of dolphins and lilies, they celebrate life with music and movement. Their art bursts with color and joy, until, suddenly, it all vanishes. Historians still argue whether an earthquake, a volcano, or invading Mycenaeans ended the party. Whatever it was, the music stops, and another civilization slides quietly into myth. Across all these lands, one thing remains constant: the human urge to organize the infinite. You watch priests track the stars, noting how the same constellations appear night after night. Calendars are born. Time itself becomes measurable, predictable, a grid laid over the chaos of existence. And with calendars come taxes, because apparently someone realized that if you can predict harvests, you can schedule payments. Power concentrates in temples and palaces. Scribes multiply like spreadsheets. Rulers commission monuments to themselves, statues so large they make you feel like an afterthought. You notice a new social species emerging: the advisor. They hover near thrones, murmuring strategies, and occasionally getting executed for bad ones. The first yes men walk the earth, yet beneath the marble and the myths, ordinary life carries on. Children chase goats through dusty courtyards. Women grind grain on stone slabs, singing to the rhythm of their work. Merchants haggle over silver and barley. Somewhere, a scribe teaches a boy to press symbols into clay, warning him that writing may bring wisdom. But also neck pain. At night, you climb a ziggurat steps. The air cools, the stars scatter like spilled salt. You can see the city below, its flickering lamps, its noise fading into the hum of insects. For a moment, the world feels timeless. Humanity is no longer a handful of wanderers chasing herds, it's a patchwork of nations, languages, and faiths, all reaching upward in stone and song. Still, there's a tremor beneath the order. You hear whispers of drought, raids, and famine. Empires stretch their borders too thin. Trade routes falter. The Bronze Age glitter begins to tarnish. Somewhere, a kingdom burns and no one sends a memo about it. You glance back at the horizon, where pyramids and palaces pierce the twilight. They gleam like eternal monuments, but you know better. Every civilization thinks it will last forever. Everyone eventually learns that sand and time are patient teachers. You wake to the clang of bronze, bright, ringing, metallic. The air smells faintly of forge smoke and sea breeze. The Bronze Age has reached its height, and for the first time in history, the world feels connected. You walk through a bustling harbor where ships bob like corks, their hulls packed with copper, tin, textiles, and, inevitably, gossip. Merchants call out prices in tongues that blend together like the scent of olive oil and tar. Civilization has gone global, or at least, regional global, which is still pretty impressive for 1500 BCE. You follow the sound of hammering to a workshop. A blacksmith, bare-chested and soot-streaked, pours molten bronze into a clay mold. It glows like captured sunlight, cooling slowly into a sword fit for a king, or a warlord pretending to be one. Bronze changes everything. It's harder than stone, sharper than copper, and much better for stabbing people who disagree with your tax policy. With metal, armies grow, cities fortify, and trade networks hum with urgency. The world becomes a web of connection. Egypt trades with the Levant, the Hittites clash with Assyria, and Mycenaean ships prowl the Aegean. On the island of Cyprus, miners dig deep for copper, the red gold of the age, while faraway caravans haul tin from Afghanistan, threading deserts and mountains with paths of ambition. You could almost call these merchants the first influencers, trendsetters shaping fashion. Language and technology across continents, minus the ring lights. In the marketplace of Ugarit, you overhear sailors boasting of distant lands. One displays a small clay tablet etched with strange symbols, a new invention, alphabetic writing, simpler than cuneiform and perfect for quick messages like "send more beer." Historians still argue whether the alphabet began here or in Sinai, but either way, humanity's paperwork just got faster and far more legible. You wander through Mycenae, where warriors in boar-tusk helmets stomp past frescoed walls. Inside the citadel, the air smells of honey and wine. Someone's reciting a poem about a hero named Achilles, just a rumor now, but one that'll echo for millennia. The Greeks haven't written Homer yet, but you can sense him on the horizon, sharpening metaphors. Then, one night, the sky itself seems to hold its breath. Cities burn. Trade collapses. The Bronze Age, the glittering web connecting the known world, tears apart. The reasons? Still debated. Some blame drought, others invasions, others mysterious sea peoples who appear out of nowhere like a pirate apocalypse. You watch as palaces fall silent. Scripts vanish, and great cities crumble into ash. Civilization takes a nap lasting centuries. You walk through a ruined port. The once busy docks are silent, littered with broken amphorae and tangled rope. A goat wanders through what used to be a royal courtyard. The wind sighs through the empty streets like memory itself. It's eerie, humbling, and weirdly peaceful. Humanity has learned a painful lesson. Interconnectedness makes you powerful, but it also makes you fragile. Still, humans never stay down for long. In the wreckage, survivors adapt. Farmers return to their fields, blacksmiths to their forges, storytellers to their fires. Oral tradition becomes the lifeline of knowledge. You sit beside a shepherd who hums an old song about gods and heroes. The words shift each time he sings them, but the spirit stays the same. The stories of the Bronze Age don't die, they smolder. Elsewhere, in China's fertile valleys, the Shang dynasty flourishes. You walk past tall wooden palisades and bronze cauldrons big enough to cook a small army's worth of rice. The Shang kings consult oracle bones, heating them until they crack and reading divine messages in the lines. It's the first written Chinese language, carved into turtle shells, a practice both mystical and administrative. Even thousands of miles away, humanity's twin obsessions, control and curiosity, burn bright. Far to the south, in the dense jungles of Mesoamerica, small villages begin planting maize. Smoke curls above thatched roofs. Corn will become their sun, their calendar, their deity. You can feel the same quiet revolution happening there that once happened in Mesopotamia, a rhythm of planting, harvesting, storytelling. Different lands, same heartbeat. Meanwhile, back around the Mediterranean, the survivors of the collapse begin rebuilding. Phoenician sailors set out from Tyre and Sidon, crafting sleek ships with purple sails dyed from tiny sea snails. They'll map the coastlines of Africa and Europe, spreading trade, letters, and legends. One day, their alphabet will inspire Greek, Latin, and eventually, everything from English tweets to your grocery list. Civilization is rebooting, line by line. You stop by a Phoenician port at sunset. The air tastes of salt and cedar. A sailor offers you dried figs and tells you that the world is wide and hungry again. He doesn't know it, but he's standing on the edge of a new era. The Iron Age is coming, darker and louder, with sharper tools and sharper tempers. As twilight deepens, you glance back at the sea. The waves whisper of lost empires, sunken ships, and the eternal hum of human ambition. The Bronze Age may have shattered, but its spirit lingers. In myths, in metal, in the memory of those who built and broke the first great web of the world, somewhere in the distance, the forge fires flicker to life again. Bronze cools, but humanity does not. Morning rises over a world reforged. The Bronze Age has fallen, and from its ashes, the Iron Age gleams, rough, stubborn, transformative. You wake to smoke and hammering, blacksmiths forging iron, harder to work than bronze but destined to reshape everything. In Anatolia, the Hittites guard their new secret closely. In a smoky forge, a smith strikes a glowing bar, sparks leap, a blade is born, raw, enduring, inevitable. Soon, iron flows like blood across continents. In Greece, the Dark Age begins, not darkness, but silence. Trade falters, literacy fades, and only songs of heroes remain. Bards chant of Troy, of gods meddling in mortal fate. Westward, tribes raise stone hill forts. Ancestors of the Celts, who craft curved, singing blades and gather by fires with mead and myth. By 800 BCE, Greece awakens. The alphabet returns, sharpened by traders. Words become immortal. In Athens, debates unfurl beneath olive trees, justice, truth, democracy's uncertainty. Each polis is a small world, Sparta disciplined, Corinth rich, Athens intoxicated by ideas. Statues loosen, theater is born, and for the first time, a society examines itself aloud. Eastward, Assyria rises, ruthless and brilliant. Nineveh's winged bulls guard streets of slaves, scribes, soldiers. On palace walls, kings hunt lions and impale enemies with bureaucratic precision, even as scholars chart stars and build libraries. Civilization thrives on both cruelty and genius. In Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar's Ishtar Gate blazes cobalt blue. Ziggurats and hanging gardens lift dreams skyward. Below, scribes etch trade, prayers, and curses into clay. Egypt endures too, not imperial, but eternal. Luxor's hieroglyphs glow under torchlight, the Nile breathes in its ancient rhythm. Across the Mediterranean, Italy is still humble, farmers, smoke, oxen. Rome is only a story whispered by firelight, twins, a wolf, a destiny waiting to wake. Far east, Zhou China performs solemn rites under heaven's mandate. Kings bow before bronze vessels, legitimizing power through cosmic order, echoes of pharaohs, Olympian kings, and future monarchs. In India, sages write hymns by riverbanks, the Vedas forming as philosophy flows like water, the Iron Age hums. Empires rise and fall, trade stretches from Spain to China, alphabets spread, roads weave cities together. Humanity sharpens itself, on stone, metal, and language. At dusk, from a hill, you watch hearth smoke curl skyward, countless lives, stories, civilizations. Iron sings in the forges. Myths begin to yield to history. Words will turn from magic to record, heroes to citizens, gods to literature, but for now, the forge still glows. The hammer falls. Humanity keeps shaping its destiny. You open your eyes to sunlight glittering across a new world, one built of marble, discipline, and ambition. The Iron Age has matured, and civilization stretches its limbs like a waking giant. You stand in a Greek agora, surrounded by chatter, stone, and the smell of olives and ambition. Democracy, an experiment even its inventors distrust, is alive. Citizens debate, sculptors carve, philosophers pace in circles, asking questions that will never die. Socrates stands in a white tunic, declaring, "Virtue is knowledge." He writes nothing, only questions until others doubt everything. His student Plato scribbles ideal forms, while Aristotle insists on reality, cataloging life and laying foundations for science without meaning to. Greek culture ripples outward, colonies bloom across the Mediterranean. The sea is no longer a barrier but a highway. To the north, Macedonian drums beat. Philip II and Alexander sweep across continents. At Gaugamela, Alexander charges into history, ruling from Greece to India before dying at 32. His empire shatters, but Alexandria remains, a city of marble and scrolls. In its library, scholars debate stars and medicine. Eratosthenes measures Earth with shadows and math, almost exactly right. Brilliance brings chaos. The Hellenistic kingdoms feud as trade thrives. Meanwhile, in Italy, a city of shepherds and thieves grows teeth. Rome, still a republic, hums with ambition. The Senate debates, roads stretch, legions march. Rome doesn't invent, it perfects. Across the sea, wealthy Carthage controls the western trade. Hannibal's elephants cross the Alps, nearly toppling Rome, but Rome endures. They destroy Carthage and salt its earth. The Mediterranean becomes a Roman lake. Under Augustus, Rome claims peace built on corpses. Statues smile serenely as poets recite to nobles. The empire expands, roads, aqueducts, marble cities. Emperors rise and decay. Nero plays as Rome burns, Trajan surveys its greatest reach. Magnificent and unsustainable, in India, Ashoka, warrior king turned Buddhist, carves edicts urging kindness, a rare voice of moral power. His message echoes far beyond his reign. Rome builds wonders, the Colosseum, Pantheon, roads that will endure millennia. But in shadows, small groups whisper of love, equality, and salvation. Christianity spreads quietly through slaves and traders. No one in power notices, yet, the world grows vast but connected. The Silk Road hums from China to Rome. Empires rise, ideas travel, and history keeps its rhythm. Build, burn, rebuild. You end the night on a Roman balcony, lamps flickering across the hills. Laughter, songs, and arguments drift through the air. Beneath your feet, the cobblestones pulse with history. The next collapse is already on its way. The air feels heavier now. You stand on a Roman street, and the hum of invincibility is gone. The marble still gleams, the baths still steam, but the empire feels brittle. It's around 300 CE. Rome is vast, tired, and cracking under its own weight. You pass worn columns, markets grumbling over taxes, soldiers short on pay. The machine still runs, but barely. Armies are stretched thin, emperors rise and die in quick succession. Historians debate why Rome fell. The truth is simply everything at once. In the cracks, something new grows. Christianity, once whispered in catacombs, spreads fast. Constantine legalizes it in 313 CE, turning temples into churches and bishops into power brokers. He shifts the capital east to Constantinople, a new, sleek Rome, but the west weakens. Germanic tribes cross the borders, refugees as much as raiders. In 410 CE, Alaric's Visigoths sack Rome. The eternal city learns it can die. As the empire splinters, roads crumble, trade slows, cities shrink. Monks in quiet monasteries copy fading texts, saving Aristotle, Homer, and Virgil one line at a time. Outside, feudalism takes shape, kings, knights, serfs, and a church that outlasts everything. Cathedrals rise, bells mark time, faith becomes the spine of society. Meanwhile, in the 7th century, a new voice speaks in the Arabian desert. Muhammad emerges from meditation with revelations. Islam spreads swiftly, forming caliphates from Spain to Central Asia. In Baghdad's House of Wisdom, scholars translate Aristotle, refine algebra, and map the stars, an age of brilliance while Europe slumbers. Charlemagne tries to stitch Europe back together, crowned Holy Roman Emperor in 800 CE. Knights joust, monks write, peasants work, but the peace is fragile. Vikings sail from the north, raiding and trading before blending in. To the east, Kievan Rus rises, orthodoxy spreads, and Europe slowly knits itself together again. Farther east, Tang and Song China thrive, poets in tea houses, painters on silk, engineers inventing gunpowder, paper money, movable type. Fireworks bloom in the night sky. Across the ocean, Maya and other civilizations flourish, hidden from European eyes. By the end of this age, something stirs. Caravans cross deserts, ships push farther, and curiosity wakes. The Middle Ages are dimming. The world is ready to move again, with sails, gunpowder, and dangerous confidence. You wake to the sound of hammers striking masts and gulls screaming over a crowded harbor. It's the 14th century now, somewhere between plague and progress, and the world is finally stretching out its arms again. Trade is humming, art is blooming, and somewhere deep in the collective human brain, curiosity is burning like a fever. But first, there's the Black Death. You stand in a narrow European street, watching carts piled with bodies trundle past. The smell, smoke, rot, despair, clings to everything. Rats scurry underfoot. Bells toll endlessly. Between 1347 and 1351, the plague kills nearly a third of Europe. You can almost feel civilization holding its breath, wondering if this is the end. But strangely, out of all that death comes change. Labor shortages shift power from lords to workers. Faith falters, art darkens, and when the survivors finally step out into the sun, they seem awake. You drift south to Florence, and the air feels different here, brighter, like it's made of paint and ambition. It's the Renaissance, and it's loud. In one studio, Leonardo da Vinci sketches flying machines and dissects cadavers to understand anatomy. In another, Michelangelo chips at marble until David emerges, serene and defiant. You pass Botticelli painting Venus rising from the sea, her hair like sunlight on waves. Everything feels alive again. Knowledge, too, is reborn. In a dusty German workshop, Johannes Gutenberg fusses over bits of metal. When he's done, he's invented the printing press, and suddenly ideas can travel faster than armies. You hold one of the first printed books in your hands, the ink still smells fresh, the words sharp. For the first time in history, knowledge isn't just for monks and kings. It's for anyone who can read, or learn to. Historians still argue whether this is the single most important invention in human history. In the universities of Europe, people start asking questions that sound almost rebellious. What if the Earth isn't the center of the universe? What if truth can be observed, not decreed? You walk into a classroom in Krakow where a quiet man named Copernicus is doing dangerous math. Later, you'll find Galileo pointing his telescope at the stars, daring to say what everyone fears: maybe we're not so special after all. But for all its light, the Renaissance casts long shadows. You cross the Pyrenees and find the Spanish Inquisition, church officials hunting heresy with frightening efficiency. The smell of incense and fear fills the air. In the town square, books burn, and so do people. It's a reminder that enlightenment often walks hand in hand with darkness. Farther west, the seas call. You board a small wooden ship leaving Portugal, where Prince Henry the Navigator funds voyages to find the edges of the world. The ocean stretches endlessly, its wind sharp and salt heavy. Sailors mutter prayers to saints and stars. You grip the rail as waves slap the hull, realizing these people have no GPS, no guarantee, just courage and superstition. Soon, the age of exploration begins in earnest. You stand beside Christopher Columbus as he watches land rise on the horizon, not India, as he thinks, but the Americas. Behind him, centuries of isolation shatter in a single heartbeat. The world is now one vast, dangerous neighborhood. You travel with conquistadors into jungles thick with humidity and history. Gold glints in the riverbeds, cities of stone lie hidden beneath vines. The Aztecs, Maya, and Inca, all magnificent, all doomed to meet steel and smallpox. You hear the clash of cultures and languages, the coughing of the sick, the cry of civilizations colliding. It's not discovery, it's collision. Historians still argue whether this was destiny or disaster. Meanwhile, ships crisscross the oceans, their holds filled with spices, silver, and slaves. You walk through a port in Lisbon, the air choked with salt and sorrow. The Atlantic slave trade becomes one of humanity's darkest enterprises, millions taken, chained, and sold across continents. You can feel history turning colder, profit replacing compassion, and yet, even in this cruel new world, ideas keep blooming. In Wittenberg, a monk named Martin Luther hammers 95 theses to a church door, his complaints echoing across Europe like thunder. The Protestant Reformation begins, splintering Christendom into countless sections. You wander from town to town as printing presses pour out pamphlets, polemics, and pure chaos. People are arguing about grace, salvation, and taxes, sometimes all at once. You drift to England, where a rotund king named Henry VIII changes religion for personal reasons involving wives and heirs. The Church of England is born. And you can't help but chuckle at how much world history depends on awkward family drama. The 16th century hums with contradictions. Shakespeare writes plays that capture every corner of human nature, from love to lunacy, while alchemists boil mercury in search of eternal life. You pass through smoky taverns where explorers brag about new lands, scientists sketch stars, and playwrights dream of ghosts and daggers. The Renaissance is less an age of reason and more an age of restless imagination. Across the globe, China thrives under the Ming dynasty. You walk along the Great Wall, endless and silent, a scar of stone stretching over mountains. In the shipyards of Nanjing, enormous treasure fleets prepare to sail under Admiral Zheng He, massive vessels that reach Africa decades before European explorers think to try. Yet, mysteriously, China turns inward, burning its ships and closing its borders. Historians still debate why, in Africa, great empires rise: Mali, Songhai, Benin. You stand in the golden city of Timbuktu, its libraries filled with manuscripts on law, astronomy, and poetry. Trade routes crisscross the Sahara, carrying salt, ivory, and wisdom. This is not the dark continent of old European maps. It's luminous with culture, and then, the spark of reason grows brighter. You find yourself in a candlelit study where Isaac Newton drops an apple, or maybe doesn't, and dreams of universal laws. The scientific revolution begins. Telescopes, microscopes, and mathematics reveal a universe so vast and orderly that humans start to believe they can understand it all. It's a comforting illusion. By the late 1600s, the world feels charged, as if waiting for the next leap. Trade empires grow fat, cities pulse with wealth, and philosophers in Paris coffeehouses debate freedom and rights. You sip your own cup and smile at the irony. After millennia of kings and priests defining truth, the idea of individual thought is about to explode like a cannon. The Renaissance has ended, but its afterglow lingers. Humanity has rediscovered its curiosity, and now it's itching to reinvent everything: religion, politics, science, and even itself. You close your eyes, lulled by the rhythmic clatter of printing presses and the whisper of sails unfurling toward distant horizons. The world is wide open again, and it's both thrilling and terrifying. You find yourself standing in the middle of a crowded 19th-century street. Horses clop, steam whistles shriek, and the air smells like burning coal and progress. You blink, and the whole world seems to lurch forward. Iron rails snake across continents, cables hum beneath oceans, and suddenly everything, from tea to telegrams, moves faster than thought. Humanity has discovered speed, and it's never going back. Factories roar like dragons. You wander through a British textile mill, your ears ringing with the rattle of looms. The workers around you, children, women, men with soot-blackened lungs, move like parts of a machine. Cotton dust floats in the air, soft as snow, deadly as time. It's beautiful and terrible all at once. You realize that for the first time, ordinary people are producing extraordinary quantities of things: clothes, steel, soap, locomotives, dreams. In a smoky cafe in Paris, a few thinkers sip bitter coffee and invent ideas even more explosive than steam. Karl Marx scribbles about class struggle, Charles Darwin sketches a tree of life that rattles centuries of belief. Historians still argue whether the Industrial Revolution changed the mind faster than it changed the machine, but either way, you can feel the planet's pulse quickening. Then there's America, a gangly teenager of a nation flexing new muscles. Railroads stitch its vast plains together. And a telegraph line zips across the land like a nervous system. You can almost hear the Morse code, dot dash, each one a heartbeat of the modern world. Out west, pioneers plow soil and chase gold. In cities, immigrants pour in, bringing languages, foods, and sweat. The world feels both infinite and intimate, as if distance itself has shrunk, but progress doesn't come cheap. You pass a coal town where black dust coats every window. Children cough themselves to sleep while their fathers descend into the earth each morning. Luddite workers smash machines that stole their livelihoods, though historians still argue whether they feared unemployment or just the dehumanizing rhythm of automation. You can't blame them. It's hard to love a machine that doesn't love you back. Across the channel, Germany unifies under Prussian steel and ambition. Bismarck's mustache bristles like a war banner as he forges an empire through cunning and blood. Meanwhile, Japan, once sealed like a secret, suddenly opens to the world, bowing to none as it modernizes faster than anyone thought possible. You stand on a Tokyo street and watch a samurai trade his sword for a business suit. It feels almost poetic, an ancient spirit in a Western shell. The world's new obsession becomes empire. Britain, France, Belgium, they race across Africa and Asia, carving maps like pie crusts. The civilizing mission, they call it, though you see the rubber whips and the ivory greed. A quirky tidbit: when explorers first mapped Africa, some European maps still included a mountain range that didn't exist, the mountains of Kong. You chuckle at the irony. Humanity has learned to harness steam and electricity, yet it still invents geography when convenient. Factories feed empires, and empires feed factories. Tea from India, cotton from Egypt, copper from Congo, everything circulates like blood in an industrial heart. Back in London, someone sips that tea without ever imagining the hands that pick the leaves. The world is connected, but compassion hasn't quite caught up with technology. In America, the Civil War erupts. You stand amid cannon smoke at Gettysburg, the ground trembling beneath you. Men charge into musket fire for ideals still being defined: freedom, unity, the right to exist as equals. Out of the ashes comes the 13th Amendment, a promise that slavery, at least on paper, will never return. Historians still debate whether the war was fought more for morality or economics, but either way, you can feel the tremor of change rippling outward, and over in Paris again, artists start rebelling not with weapons but with paint. Impressionists smear sunlight onto canvas, trying to capture not what the world is, but how it feels. Monet's water lilies shimmer beside trains and telegraphs. A quiet reminder that amid all this noise, beauty still insists on being seen. By now, you've crossed oceans of progress. You can feel the 20th century breathing at the edge of the horizon, a century that will compress everything you've just witnessed into a single, roaring heartbeat. Humanity's about to wire the planet, split the atom, and touch the sky. But for tonight, the lamps of the 19th century still glow, warm, flickering, unaware of the storm they're about to light. You wake to a low hum, the 20th century beginning like an electric current in your bones. The world is suddenly smaller, faster, louder. Wires carry voices across continents. Cars rattle down muddy streets. In North Carolina, the Wright brothers' wooden contraption shudders against gravity and winds. Cities blaze with electric light. You walk through New York at night, past glowing shop windows and phonograph music drifting out. Humanity has invented not just comfort, but spectacle. Movie reels flicker, dreams projected on walls. The century feels drunk on its own brilliance, but tension simmers beneath the glow. Empires flex, alliances tighten, and the world stumbles into World War I. In the trenches of 1914, mud, rats, and gas define existence. Shells shriek, earth shakes, fear spreads. For empires collapse, Ottoman, Austro-Hungarian, Russian, German, leaving behind jazz, radio, surrealism, humanity's attempt to sing through the wreckage. Then, 1929. Markets crash, banks fall, breadlines stretch. Suits turn to rags overnight. One man even sells invisible sculptures, proof that hope is strange but resilient. In Germany, desperation hardens into ideology. Rallies roar, boots march. Hitler rises. World War II follows like a second thunderclap. On Normandy's beaches, the horizon burns. 6 million souls vanish into ash. Yet courage survives, resistance fighters. Nurses, codebreakers, peace arrives uneasily. Hiroshima's blinding flash marks the atomic age. Humanity realizes it can end itself with a button. The world splits in two, east and west, staring each other down across Berlin's concrete wall. Neon and rock music on one side, rations and propaganda on the other. Yet people find ways to laugh, to whisper freedom through cracks. Above, a new race begins, not for land, but for the stars. Sputnik beeps in orbit. Gagarin smiles from space. Armstrong leaves a boot print on the moon. Science and theater blend, but it doesn't matter. Humanity has reached beyond itself. As the century barrels on, revolutions ignite, civil rights marches, student protests, empires falling. TV beams it all into living rooms. You glimpse Woodstock mud, the Berlin Wall crumbling, Mandela walking free. Chaos and hope dance together. This isn't just a century of war and wonder, it's civilization's adolescence, loud, restless, learning. Skyscrapers pierce clouds, satellites blink like stars, computers hum in labs. A new digital age looms, midnight nears. The world counts down to 2000, holding its breath. The lights stay on. History exhales. You wake to a world wired tight with electricity, glass, and invisible signals. The 21st century stretches before you, humming with potential and panic in equal measure. Skyscrapers glint under the sun, drones buzz overhead, and everyone seems to be talking, at once, everywhere, always. You realize the world has become a giant hive, and you are a single, buzzing cell. The first thing you notice is the internet, that sprawling, invisible web connecting billions. You can watch people on the other side of the globe argue, laugh, and sell cats in real time. Memes travel faster than armies ever could, ideas leap continents in milliseconds, and the boundary between local and global blurs. Historians still debate whether this digital revolution will ultimately empower or overwhelm humanity, but you can feel the change in your fingertips and your pulse. Cities rise faster than trees can grow, and you walk through metropolises that pulse with neon light, advertising, and endless construction. Transportation evolves at a dizzying pace. Electric cars, high-speed trains, and planes crisscross the sky. Humans live faster, work harder, and scroll compulsively, a rhythm unfamiliar to anyone who lived before 1900. Even the air seems different, dense with exhaust and Wi-Fi signals, and yet, nature stubbornly asserts itself. You find yourself in a forest, the wind singing through trees older than civilization. Climate change hums in the background, rising seas, shifting weather, forests and ice struggling to survive. People argue, protest, invent, and innovate, but Earth reminds you that it has patience and memory beyond human attention spans. You can smell smoke from wildfires and salt from encroaching seas, and it's oddly grounding. In medicine, miracles unfold. You see doctors using robotics and AI to treat diseases, while researchers decode DNA like a book left open by ancient scribes. Vaccines, once a dream, now circulate within hours of new outbreaks. Humanity gains power over life in ways once considered divine, or dangerous. A quirky fact, scientists have revived organisms from spores frozen for tens of thousands of years, proving life is stubborn in ways we are only beginning to understand. Technology doesn't just heal, it also surveils. Cameras, satellites, and smartphones trace movements, habits, and moods. You feel watched, connected, and empowered simultaneously. Historians still argue whether this is liberation or subtle tyranny. And you realize the answer is probably both. Meanwhile, the social fabric stretches. Movements for equality, recognition, and rights ripple across continents. You stand in a crowd holding a sign, and voices echo in unison. Some call for justice, some for reform, some just for visibility. The world seems bigger yet smaller, chaotic yet synchronized. Globalization entangles everything, goods, people, ideas, and viruses alike. Pandemics, recessions, and climate crises remind you that despite all our intelligence, nature and chance are still players in this story. You witness the speed of response, the creativity of solutions, and the stubbornness of problems that refuse to vanish. Space continues to beckon. You drift past orbiting satellites, commercial space flights, and Mars rovers trundling over red dust. Dreams of human colonies beyond Earth are no longer fantasy. A glimpse at the stars makes you feel infinitesimal and immortal at once, a timeless contradiction humans have chased since the first fires. Art and culture explode in diversity. You watch films, stream music, and browse digital galleries from countless corners of the globe, each piece a thread in humanity's complex tapestry. Pop culture, like the river of history, flows, twists, and branches, carrying fragments of every century before it, and yet, amid all this, life remains beautifully ordinary. Children laugh in playgrounds, markets bustle, lovers kiss in quiet streets, elders tell stories that won't be uploaded or tweeted. Civilization, for all its complexity and speed, is still composed of small moments that repeat across millennia. The 21st century pulses with paradox, simultaneously connected and isolated, powerful and vulnerable, inventive and destructive. You feel both dizzy and awed as the digital age hums beneath your skin, reminding you that humanity has never truly stopped trying, failing, and dreaming. You step forward, and suddenly the world feels almost too big to hold in your mind. It's the 22nd century, or at least the edge of it, the near future, where technology has grown legs and started running faster than most people can keep up. Cities soar into the sky on carbon-neutral stilts, oceans hum with floating labs, and deserts bloom under domes that taste of irrigation and ambition. Humanity is finally learning to manipulate the planet itself, but not always gracefully. Robots, once clunky helpers, now integrate seamlessly into daily life. They cook, clean, teach, and even debate ethics in ways that make you question what it means to be human. AI has become both muse and mirror, reflecting the best and worst of human ambition. Historians still argue whether it will be humanity's crowning achievement or its ultimate challenge. For now, you watch in awe as self-driving vehicles glide silently along magnetic tracks, their passengers reading or meditating, unaware of the complex code guiding them. Energy is no longer a bottleneck. Fusion reactors pulse softly in the distance, lighting entire cities with what feels like the quiet hum of stars. Solar sails drift in orbit, catching sunlight with the elegance of 1,000 paper cranes, while wind turbines turn in deserts and seas alike, spinning humanity's dreams into electricity. You inhale the scent of ozone and oil and wonder if future historians will call this era miraculous or inevitable. Medicine has transformed. Genetic editing allows children to be born free of disease, organs grow in vats like sculpted clay, and nanobots patrol bloodstream highways like microscopic traffic cops. You feel like you're walking in a world that science fiction only dared to imagine, and yet it's here. A quirky fact: some researchers are experimenting with synthetic memory in lab-grown neurons, attempting to record human experiences like data files. You shiver a little, both thrilled and uneasy. On a social level, humanity has both shrunk and expanded. Teleportation isn't real, but immersive virtual worlds mean you can exist anywhere, almost instantly. People work, play, argue, and love in spaces that blur geography. Borders feel simultaneously trivial and fiercely contested. Humanity struggles with the same old questions: power, wealth, equality, but now with tools that make consequences global and immediate. You drift through a Martian colony under a translucent dome. Red dust clings to your boots, water recirculates in tight loops. Children plant seeds in hydroponic soil, unaware that this planet once had nothing but silence. Earth's orbiting satellites wink overhead, connecting colonies, monitoring weather, guiding ships. Humans are no longer just inhabitants of one world, they are engineers of several. Meanwhile, climate remains a stubborn companion. Ocean levels rise in some regions, deserts creep in others. Geoengineering projects hum quietly, attempting to undo centuries of neglect. You watch a massive storm system from orbit, the swirl of wind and water both terrifying and hypnotic. Humanity's power is impressive, but nature's patience is long. Culturally, the world thrives. Music, art, and literature blend traditions from every era, remixing classical Greek philosophy, Renaissance painting, and digital memes into new forms. Historians still debate whether culture evolves faster than technology, or the other way around, but walking through a virtual gallery of global collaboration, you sense that humanity has never been more expressive. Yet, with all this, ordinary life persists. Families gather for meals, friends argue over coffee, and lovers kiss under artificial stars on distant planets. Civilization, no matter how advanced, remains made of small moments repeated endlessly. You realize the story of humanity isn't just about empires, technologies, or ideologies, it's about people noticing, imagining, failing, loving, and dreaming. The future feels exhilarating and fragile all at once, a reminder that even as civilizations climb toward the stars, they carry the same curiosity, folly, and resilience that has defined every era before. You stand in awe, knowing this journey is both continuation and reinvention, a story without end. You step into the present moment, the world vibrating with more data, color, and possibility than any human before you could have imagined. Civilization now stretches across every corner of Earth, linked by invisible networks, moving at the speed of thought. Cities breathe, economies pulse, and knowledge spreads faster than lightning. You feel the weight of history behind you, every century layered like sediment beneath your feet, every invention and catastrophe echoing in your awareness. The digital age has matured, reshaping what it means to live, learn, and connect. Virtual spaces buzz with collaboration, creation, and chaos. Algorithms guide choices, suggesting music, friends, news, and sometimes danger, while humans, curious, stubborn, and adaptive, navigate these currents as best they can. Historians still argue whether this period marks humanity's greatest freedom or a subtle surrender to its own creations. You scroll through a digital archive and feel the hum of countless lives recorded, remembered, and sometimes lost, their footprints etched in ones and zeros. Meanwhile, Earth itself reminds you that progress is never absolute. Climate change continues to challenge human ingenuity. Storms, droughts, and rising seas are constant companions, not distant possibilities. You watch a glacier calve, its thunderous collapse resonating through fjords and timelines alike. Despite centuries of technology, humanity remains a guest on a planet that does not negotiate. Yet, innovation persists. Renewable energy, carbon capture, and urban redesign hint that adaptation may yet keep pace with consequence. Across the globe, culture thrives in multiplicity. Music, literature, and visual art mix past, present, and imagined futures. You attend a concert broadcast simultaneously in Tokyo, Lagos, and Sao Paulo. The audience is global, yet each person experiences it uniquely, an echo of humanity's enduring creativity. You remember tales of past civilizations, the Greeks, the Romans, the Renaissance thinkers, the explorers, and realize that humans have always sought beauty amid chaos. Space beckons still. The moon hosts research stations, Mars colonies hum with early life, and telescopes peer into the infinite, revealing stars born billions of years ago. Humanity is no longer bound to a single planet. Curiosity has become a literal force that propels civilization beyond its cradle. The universe stretches vast, and you sense both the thrill and the responsibility that comes with it. Yet, for all the grandeur and innovation, ordinary life continues to anchor humanity. Children chase frisbees in parks. Farmers tend crops, neighbors exchange greetings, elders recount stories at dusk. Civilization, no matter how advanced, remains composed of these small, enduring acts of living. As you watch the sun set over Earth's horizon, you feel the rhythm of millennia beneath your consciousness. Every empire, invention, war, and artistic flourish has led to this, an intricate, imperfect, endlessly fascinating continuum. The story of human civilization is not a straight line, but a tapestry of trial, error, brilliance, and resilience. You feel the quiet thrill of being part of this ongoing adventure, a fleeting observer and participant simultaneously. The past whispers, the present hums, and the future waits. You close your eyes, letting the weight of time lull you into reflection, ready for the next chapter humanity will write on the canvas of existence. Now, as you sink deeper into the quiet of your own space, let the rush of centuries slow like a river reaching the sea. Imagine the streets of ancient Sumer, bustling with clay tablets and livestock, fading gently into the dusty corridors of Babylon and the golden halls of Alexandria. Each empire, each city, each invention was a heartbeat in a rhythm that stretches across time. You can feel the pulse, slow and steady now, carrying echoes of every human choice, every act of creation, every moment of wonder and folly. The rise and fall of civilizations are no longer a parade of events but a soft, unfolding story, like clouds drifting across a vast sky. You picture Rome, Athens, Timbuktu, Florence, Beijing, and New York as luminous points in an intricate constellation, each glowing briefly, then dimming, yet never entirely disappearing. You trace your fingers along the threads connecting them, the trade, the ideas, the migrations, the art, the discoveries, and notice how everything flows into what comes next. Quietly shaping the world you inhabit now, breathe in the collective knowledge of humanity, the poetry of its mistakes, the brilliance of its inventions, the stubbornness of its hope. Picture children learning, hands clasped over books or screens, faces alight with curiosity. Imagine artists painting, scientists calculating, engineers building, communities laughing and arguing and living, all parts of the same unfolding story that has brought you here, to this moment of calm reflection. The future is not distant or unknown, it is a gentle extension of everything that came before. The same human curiosity, resilience, and imagination that carved empires and mapped stars now guides you and everyone around you. Feel the continuity, the soft comfort of knowing that while civilizations rise and fall, humanity endures in its acts of wonder, connection, and care. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let the memory of all those centuries carry you into sleep. Let the gentle rhythm of human history rock you, not with fear or urgency, but with the quiet reassurance that life continues, endlessly inventive, endlessly resilient, endlessly yours to witness in your own small way.